Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Drewberry, and check this out. These are all of the currently active locations in Marvel Snap. Every single week we get one new one, and it is plunged into this pool of locations. We're at 98, dude. There's almost 100. We're 2 away from hitting 100, which is pretty insane. There's a high variance in your games when you queue up. There's going to be 3 locations, and every game's going to be different, and that's, I think, one of the best things about Marvel Snap. But it's also sometimes one of the worst things. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the best, the 5 best, or at least the ones that I enjoy the most. This is a totally subjective experience. If there's locations that are popular opinion that people don't like, that you like, then that's great. But it's just my experience, the 5 that I prefer to see when I'm playing a game of Marvel Snap. And shortly, I'll be uploading my top 5 least favorite, okay? So we're doing a double whammy today, talking about locations. All right, and lastly, about all of these locations, feel free to pause it. I know the text might be hard to read, but you should recognize like the artwork. A lot of these locations have different rarities. So there's actually common, uncommon, rare, and super rare. So those are like the degrees of rarity that you'll see it in your game. I couldn't find, no matter how I tried, any percentages based on those rarities. We just have to kind of assume that they're in a tier of their own, and you'll only see the super rare ones like 1 in 10 probably, or maybe not even that. Maybe it's 1 in 20. I'm not too sure, but they are super rare, and they're actually only a couple. And that is Ego and Worldship. So Ego takes control of both players' cards and plays the game for them. So it's a good thing that one is super rare. And then Worldship destroys the other 2 locations, similar to Galactus. So anyways, I said 1 in 10. I'm pretty sure it's like 1 in 100. You don't see these very often. It's super, super rare. But the other ones, you're going to see quite frequently, and there's some common ones, and we're going to cover the rarities in the top 5. So let's get to it. Number 5, Sanctum Sanctorum. I know I'm kicking it off with a controversial one. I think a lot of people don't like this location, and with good reason. You can't actually play cards here. So it's a bit of a negative control, lock down the board situation with this location when it pops up. But there's a few nuances that I actually appreciate that make for a very unique game. For instance, if you and your opponent, let's just say in a perfect world, cannot get power to Sanctum Sanctorum, then it becomes a race of who can have more power at their respective winning location. You could try and win both, but that might be difficult. So you end up just trying to stack as much power at one location. Your opponent's probably trying to do that at theirs, and then maybe trying to delete or destroy on the other ones, disrupt each other. And then it's like whoever has the most will beat that tiebreaker and win the game. And I always find those races are fun, but then you always have to think in the back of your mind, what if they have White Tiger, Dr. Doom, Arnim Zola? They're going to split 2 cards and put something there at Sanctum Sanctorum. What if they're running a move deck and they're going to move everything over, or Nightcrawler flips over, Vision? Like, there's a lot of ways to actually get power to Sanctum Sanctorum, because it's cards that can't be played. You can still add cards. So it actually really benefits things like token decks that are looking to do big on reveals and throw no ability stuff over there. Get them over there, like those White Tigers I was talking about. So, and then move decks, man, there's not a lot of locations that benefit move decks. We have a bunch that benefit destroy decks, but move decks usually get totally wrecked dependent on the location. So this one, I think, actually really helps them out, guarantee that they're going to win that one location, then they have to find a way to win another. It's still not the greatest thing. It's not like if you move cards here, you get bonus power or anything like that, but I think they have a little bit of an advantage. So I totally understand if people don't love this location, but I actually appreciate it. I do enjoy it, but let's get to number 4. Number 4, Lamentis 1. Okay, and then another controversial location, and more recent controversy, because when this was the hot location, the featured location, when it had a 40% increased chance of showing up in your matches for 2 days, people hated this thing. It was the worst thing ever in the beginning of December. But I actually kind of like it when it shows up now, because it's just kind of one of those, all right, I have all my tools, you have all your tools, let's see who can manage these 7 resources better, because you're probably going to have 7 cards in your hand, right? And then it's just very limited action. When it comes down to the final turns, I start to, pick up on what does my opponent have in their hand. Maybe they're trying to set up a play. You can kind of read the situation a little bit better and not rely on top decks. It takes the top decking out of the equation. It happens at the beginning, and if you stick with it, then there's no top decking the rest of the game. You did all your top decking on turn 1, 2, or 3. And this also benefits destroy decks because death will actually get discounted for every card destroyed in both players' decks, which is nuts. So she's easily a zero cost card. Everybody was running death when this was the featured location. You pair that with Moon Girl, you get 2 of them and you play them everywhere. And then you get Null, who gets all of that bonus power from all those cards destroyed. It's insane. But you have to just happen to be running this deck list because this is a rare location. So that is one step under the super rares. Again, I don't know the percentages, but I want to say like 1 in 25, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's a reasonable distribution. But anyways, you don't see this one too often. So I appreciate when I see it. It has a sick animation. I also just watched the Loki show for the first time. I don't know why it took me so long, but I finally got around to watching it and I loved it. So maybe I'm a little biased from that, but overall, this location does a lot that I love. So I'm here for it. Let's get to 3. Number 3. Bar Sinister. Okay, I might have a weird taste in locations. Now that I start to do this, I'm realizing that these are a lot of locations that people hated very frequently. But I find they make for really funny moments, dude. Like Bar Sinister. When you play a card here, fill this location with copies of it. It enables the nuttiest, the craziest screen grabs, share with your friends moments that you'll ever see in Snap. I'm telling you, I've seen the funniest stuff on Reddit and Twitter, all that stuff. It always seems to be a location like this that creates the impossible. When you brought your deck to the table, you did not expect to get 4 copies of Silver Surfer and buff all your 3 drops by like 12. That's insane. That's an insane power output. Or your Patriot comes out and all your no ability bros get all 8 power. It's crazy. It's through the roof. So much power to be had. I actually just recently played Shuri at Bar Sinister to buff my Red Skull, who ended up like at 240 power. I don't even know. It was insane. I was able to play him at Cloning Vats, get a copy, and then play that on turn 6. That was my 4, 5, and 6 turn. It was nuts. I had 240 power Red Skulls. So like this Bar Sinister creates the craziest of combos. Now, it doesn't always benefit every deck that you bring to the table, but I'd say pretty well every deck that ends up being queued in, you have at least one card that you're like, yeah, this would be great if I could quadruple this. Another crazy combo is Green Goblin, because Green Goblin is going to copy himself 4 times and send himself over 4 times. And actually, because he does that, he actually copies himself once more. So you end up with 1 Green Goblin. Your opponent's going to get 4 of them, but still, like, you've won that location. That's a wrap, unless they're playing Destroyer or something like that. But you're in a pretty good spot. And then the number 1 combo that people were running when this was a featured location in October was Hulkbuster Venom, because Hulkbuster is going to create 4 copies and then it's going to attach all assembled into 1, and then Venom's going to create 3 copies if you play after and eat each one, and it's just an insane pouring out of power. And then you, like, I don't know, you copy it elsewhere with Taskmaster or something like that. There was some wild shenanigans going on when this came out, and now it's pretty fun. It's an uncommon location, so you're actually going to see this a reasonable rate. But I'm here for it. Anything that makes those highlight reel moments, those you want to tell your friend about it moments, I think those are great for Marvel Snap, so I love it. Number 2, Elysium. All right, this is probably one that everyone can agree on. That's pretty awesome. Elysium, man, cards cost 1 less. Yes, discount my entire hand, discount my opponents. Let's see what they can do. Let's get crazy with this, right? I think almost everything in Marvel Snap would appreciate getting discounted by 1. We got some of the synergies here that I think are pretty fun. Like, for instance, Deadpool. You can throw him out, no cost. So you're destroying him on cheap, on repeat, every single turn that you possibly can, which is so good. The thing that makes Deadpool balanced is that he costs 1. So there's always an opportunity cost you have to pay to get him destroyed so that he gets the doubled power back, right? Thanos, get all of your stones discounted by 1. They're free now. They are free, and you can play Thanos and a stone or a bunch of stones on turn 6 and complete your quest. See, the hardest thing I find with Thanos is actually completing the quest, is because on turn 6 you're spending it on Thanos himself. Unless you cheated him out by some means, but you're basically playing 6 for Thanos, and hopefully you got to that 18 power. Otherwise, you might be 1 stone short, and you can't play both on turn 6, and it feels bad. So with this, boom, combo enabled. Zaboo. Zaboo's already doing his thing, discounting your 4-cost cards. Well, how about another discount to those? Because they have a minimum of 1 from the Zaboo discount, but now they can go straight up to that minimum. Because 4 to 2, then Elysium makes them 1. Oh my gosh, now you're playing all your 4 costs, you're popping off and things, and happy days. And speaking of popping off and playing a whole bunch of cards because they're all cheap, is Bishop. He loves it. And when you play a 2-cost Bishop for 1, that can scale up to like 10 if you play a whole bunch of cards. Oh my gosh, it can get insane. And then another one I like is Infinite. You see, Infinite can be a bit tricky because you're spending your turn 5 and your turn 6 on this 120 power card. So it's really got to be worth it, right? But what if you could pass your turn 4 and play it on 5 and then react on 6? That seems a little bit better. Why don't we can go this route? I'll get a little bit more opportunity to win another location and then just hope the Infinite is okay and doesn't get Shang-Chi'd, right? And then lastly, we got Lockjaw. Dude, if Lockjaw is 2 and everything's cheaper in the hand to cycle, oh, you're ripping through your deck. You're going through all of the cards, and I'm here for it. It's so much fun. So that's only like the icing on the top of some of the combos that are enabled because of Elysium. Like I said, pretty much everything in the game gets benefited from this, and it's a common location. You're going to see this very frequently. I say play 10 games of Snap, you'll probably see this location at some point, right? Again, I keep talking about these numbers. I don't know the numbers at all. I'm just thinking of them at the top of my head right now, but if anybody does know, I would love to see that in the comments below. Please let me know. But here we have it. We got number 1, and it's Limbo. Oh man, Limbo's so cool. It's such a cool location in Marvel Snap. It breaks the parameters that the game sets out. At the beginning, the game tells you only have 6 turns, and at the end of 6 turns, it's going to double your cube total, and you try to win, blah, 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 blah. Limbo says, nope, we're going to add a 7th turn. Your 3-minute game is now going to be 3 minutes and 20 seconds, or however long that one turn is, and then bam. You can even combos everywhere. So many combos are enabled because of this. All of a sudden now I can play a 6-drop on turn 6 and then another 6-drop on turn 7. It enables a whole lot of things. Maybe I wanted to play a whole bunch of other cards, but I didn't have the time. I ran out of time, and then Limbo showed up. Okay, well now I can plan for the future, plan for that turn 7, and I think that's something that catches people off guard, myself included, on stream all the time. I totally forget Limbo existed or that it was on the field, and then all of a sudden I click end turn on 6, and I'm like, I won the game, and then the game's not over, and my opponent is able to beat me because they were remembering that Limbo is going to pop up. And what I also really like about this location is that a card is dedicated to it. You can play Magic. She's going to turn a location into Limbo. I actually think these are some of my favorite cards in Marvel Snap. We're talking like Storm, Magic, technically Rhino, I suppose. He turns it into the Ruins. But I'd like to see more cards that are printed that change to specific locations. I think it makes for some really interesting control options because then you eliminate that negative location that was hurting you into something that's going to benefit your deck. But this is a mutual benefit. It's not just for you. Your opponent is getting a turn 7, which is a really big deal. But how can we take advantage of it more than our opponent? Well, we could play Sarah. She's going to discount everything, so our turn 6 and 7s are just going to pop off. Or you do Onslaught on turn 6, and then you Mystique on turn 7, and whatever else combo, like your Hazmat combo or something like that. Holy smokes, those can get absolutely wild. Or we could just play Sunspot early on, and then you have an extra turn to pass if you want and just get a bunch of power on your Sunspot. Why not? She-Hulk, again, you could pass that turn 6. She is literally free on the Limbo turn on turn 7. Free card, free 10 power, and then you play whatever else you want. Or Galactus. Galactus needs a follow-up turn. Unless you like the stars align and you got lucky, you probably need a follow-up turn, which is why he's normally cheated out on 5. But maybe we Limbo, or rather Magic on 5, Galactus on 6, and then do our big combo on turn 7. That's a possibility. Enables this card. Or how about Mr. Negative? Of course, Mr. Negative. Yeah, so Mr. Negative benefits when he has more turns so you can draw more cards from your deck and you get all those negatized cards and you get to play them. So Limbo is just fantastic if it shows up because you know if you play Mr. Negative on curve on 4 and you have no further draw, you're going to get a card on 5, 6, and 7. That's 3 negatized cards. That's pretty good. But yeah, I just love Limbo. Let me know what your favorite location is in the comments below. I'm super curious. This one's mine, but I also have some honorable mentions. All right, here's some of the honorable mentions. So I got Asgard here. I think Asgard's pretty fun. It's a bit of a race to win the location, and they get those draws. Draw is so good in Marvel Snap, so it really incentivizes you to play power at this location. And maybe you just ignore your opponent when they seem to be stacking there, and you're like, fine, you can take the draw. I'll take another location while you're focused there. The Space Throne, this is probably controversial, but I just think it's really cool how there can only be one card at a location for each side. It makes like the goblins insane. If you can get a goblin over there, you pretty much won it. But I just like that the cards can't be added, similar to Sanctum Sanctorum. It's just like if there's one spot, there's only one spot that you can play cards there, and that's the Space Zone. So I think it's really cool and fitting thematically. And then the cloning vats, oh my gosh, the combos here are just through the roof. Same with Sinister London. These kind of go in pair, I find. You just get a bunch of copies or spreading out multiple copies of the same card, and it creates just a whirlwind of combinations and effects. It's so much fun to play with. Project Pegasus is another enabler because it's going to give you +5 energy this turn. That is crazy. If it's turn 1, you straight up can play Infinite from your hand for free. Boom, 20 power. It's like GG. But I find the most intense part is, what did my opponent do with all this bonus energy? Like, maybe my plan is okay. Maybe it's decent. Maybe I actually drew on curve and I don't have my big stuff yet. And I'm actually in a pickle because I can just only play 1 or 2 3-cost cards. And then bam, they play like Professor X with a bunch of other things and win a location. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was quick. The Nexus is an interesting one because you're stacking power at one location. It's benefiting all the others. I actually love it because you can completely forget about those other locations. You just have to do whatever it takes to set up the Nexus. And I have absolutely been burned by people who have allowed me to play into the Nexus like crazy, and then they Scarlet Witch or do something like change the location on turn 6, and it's GG because I invested way too hard into it. So it definitely has some counters, but it can be really fun. I once did that to my opponent where I let them set up really heavily on the Nexus, and then I played Quake to move it to a location that I had more power out and swept the game. It was super funny. And then I got these two at the top. I feel like a lot of people are going to say these are their favorite locations, rightfully so. It's an awesome combo enabler. You see these a lot. The only reason they're here and not in the top 5 for me is because you really have to bring that type of deck to the table. And I find if I see my opponent has like on reveal synergies, which I'm playing like Destroy deck or something like that, and then Kamartaj comes up and they play like one card there like Iceman or Scorpion, I'm like, oh, okay, well, geez, he's probably going to win the game anyways. I'll just leave. Same with Onslaught Citadel, but it does enable a lot of counters. You play Cosmo at Kamartaj. It's like, bam, you wanted to invest in that, and I just shut it down. Same with Onslaught Citadel. You can just wait, and then play Enchantress on turn 5 and 6. Completely rob them of their possible crazy combination. All right, that's going to do it for me. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite location. Stay tuned because I got my bottom 5 coming up and they're pretty spicy. So thank you so much for watching as always, and I will catch you guys next time.